Hello, your friendly neighborhood host JT Wheatley here again for another episode of the History of Comic Books podcast. This time concluding the history of EC Comics, Part 2. When we last left off, EC was reeling from the Comic Books Code Authority, severely restricting their comics and outright banning all their books they had. And eventually, EC was forced to abandon comics altogether, with their only surviving book being Mad, which was converted to a magazine with issue number 24 to avoid the CCA. This was ironic considering that Mad was the most subversive book of all of EC's line. Gaines also made the change to appease Harvey Kurtzman, who had been given an offer at Pageant magazine and not wanting to lose his best editor, changed the format to keep him. The magazine format afforded better printing and layouts and benefited the artists who stayed, such as Will Elder, Wally Wood, and Jack Davis. It even attracted TV personality like Ernie Kovacs, song parodists like Stan Friedberg, and humorists like Roger Price, along with new cartoonists Al Jaffe and Phil Interlandi. A new logo was introduced with the strange gap-toothed boy who began making appearances throughout the magazine with the caption, "What, me worry?" So successful was the change to the magazines that Gaines tried this with his other books, releasing picto-fiction magazines like Shock Illustrated and Crime Illustrated, but they only lasted a few issues. Eventually, the only books EC still would publish were Mad Magazine. Despite the format change, Kurtzman would eventually be wooed away to Playboy Magazine by Hugh Hefner after only 5 issues. Kurtzman told Gaines he would stay for 51% of the magazine, which Gaines balked at, thus Kurtzman left. He soon created the short-lived Trump for Hefner, along with the Little Annie Fanny comic strip in Playboy. Back at Mad, Gaines named Al Feinstein as the new editor, who finally gave the magazine's gap-toothed mascot a name, Alfred E. Newman. Feldstein moved away from Kurtzman's anarchic tone into more mainstream parodies, introducing the Spy vs. Spy strip by Anthony Proess, Al Jaffe's Fold-In strip, Dave Berg's Lighter Side of strip, and Sergio Arellano's Mad Marginals. While the format change did avoid Mad from being scrutinized by the CCA, the magazine still needed a distributor, which Jack Leibowitz, the co-owner of National Allied Publications and Independent News Distributors, was willing to provide. Gaines was worried that Leibowitz would hold a grudge over the past comments against DC Comics by EC, notably the numerous Mad parodies like Super Duper Man. But Leibowitz, ever the businessman, gave, in Gaines' own words, the nicest, cleanest contract you'll ever see, and nothing in the past was ever mentioned. Thus, in 1956, Mad got a solid distributor, and Leibowitz added another magazine to his ever-growing publishing empire. Bill Gaines ended up making more money in this new venture, but missed comics. Eventually, he would sell the company in the 1960s, with it eventually being absorbed into the same corporation that controlled DC Comics and Warner Brothers. EC's classic titles would see them expand into other mediums, with Tales from the Crypt being licensed for a movie in 1972 and Vault of Horror in 1973. They would also later inspire the films Creepshow in 1982 and the sequel Creepshow 2. Most notably of this, though, was Tales from the Crypt, the TV show produced by HBO, part of course, the larger Warner Bros. Corporation that EC was absorbed into. Premiering on June 10, 1989, the show adapted many of the stories from not just Tales from the Crypt, but also Vault of Horror and the rest of EC's horror lines. Based on being on paid cable, the show was allowed to show rampant violence, sex, and nudity, avoiding the censors that haunted the original EC Comics years ago, though it would be edited down when the series was syndicated for broadcast. Noted film composer Danny Elfman crafted the TV's iconic main theme, often included in Halloween music rotations even to this day, and the Crypt Keeper was reimagined as an animated corpse created with puppeteer effects and voiced by John Cazare, unlike the living human in the comic. The series would attract numerous guest directors and actors, from Robert Zemeckis to Tom Hanks, and along with numerous awards and critical acclaim. It even inspired a Saturday morning cartoon spin-off, Tales from the Crypt Keeper, which ran for 26 episodes in 1993 on ABC and another 13 on CBS in 1999. Another spin-off was Secrets of the Crypt Keeper's Haunted House, a kids' game show of all things that ran on CBS from 1996 to 1997, with John Cazare voicing the Crypt Keeper again as the kids' contestants completed physical challenges through haunted house sets. Fox even tried adapting another EC comic, Two-Fisted Tales, in 1999, but outside airing the pilot, nothing came of it, and the show's segment was eventually incorporated into Tales from the Crypt. Of interesting note, one story, King of the Road, featured a young and then unknown Brad Pitt. With its success in TV, it was only natural Tales from the Crypt would make the leap to film, beginning with Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, in January 13, 1995. A original story about a mysterious man played by William Sadler being hunted by a demon played by Billy Zane, it would end up being a modest success and spawning a sequel. This one, Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood, was released on August 16, 1996, this time telling the story of a private detective played by Dennis Miller who ends up investigating a vampire coven. However, this film ended up performing poorly at the box office, though some now view it as a cult classic. An unofficial conclusion to Tales from the Crypt film trilogy is Ritual, released on May 2, 2006 in the United States on DVD after languishing overseas for years. As for the original TV series, it would run in their 93 episodes before ending on July 19, 1996. It would get a radio show spin-off in 2000 along with numerous planned reboots, all of which have not panned out. Nevertheless, the show has become an iconic part of the TV landscape, referenced and parodied by numerous other entertainment programs. So much so that more than a few fans are surprised to learn this series is technically a comic book adaptation. As for EC comic books themselves, they would live on in reprints, most notably being the EC Archives, which reprinted the series in the hardcover format with intros by noted entertainers from Bruce Campbell to Steven Spielberg, all who would comment on how much EC Comics influenced their lives and careers. To date, these comics remain a high watermark in the comic book medium, and of course, Mag Magazine is still published to this day. As for the company's creators, Bill Gaines would continue to oversee Mad Magazine to his dying day, with his masthead getting more and more elaborate. At one point, he listed as William Milfred Farnsworth Higginbottom plus Gaines the Ninth Esquire. He had divorced his second wife, Nancy Siegel, in 1971. They had married in 1955 and had 3 children, and later married Annie Griffiths in 1987. Gaines died on June 3, 1992. Harvey Kurtzman would die 9 months later on February 21, 1993 from complications from liver cancer in Mount Vernon, New York, having enjoyed a long and distinguished career outside of EC, becoming what cartoonist Jules Feiffer said at his funeral, the Orson Welles of comics. The Harvey Awards, the second most prestigious awards for comic book creators outside the Eisners, are named after him. Al Feinstein would live on to April 29, 2014 before dying in Livingston, Montana. He edited Mad Magazine until 1984, where he moved to Wyoming and spent his remaining years as a painter. As for EC Comics itself, the company had a brief but brilliant life in the 1940s and 1950s, and its legacy is still felt today as a comic book company that pushed the medium in exciting new directions, even if it brought the wrath of those who feared the change it brought. Nevertheless, with the CCA now defunct, thank goodness, and the comic books even edgier and more mature than ever, it was EC that ultimately won and its brilliant creators. I'd like to thank my chief sources for this episode was Tales of Terror, the EC Companion by Fred von Bernwitz and Grant Gusman, which features numerous interviews from various EC creators, along with a catalog of every comic book ever published under the brand, along with From Crackdown to Krypton by Ari Kaplan, which is a great history of comic books in general, but has a fantastic segment on the history of EC. Get either of these where their books are sold. And now it is October 11th, 2018, time for the favorite comic book of the week, Cosmic Ghost Rider #2 by Donny Cates and Dylan Burnett. Another crazy issue that finds Frank Miller, who is now the Cosmic Ghost Rider, having traveled back in time and kidnapping an infant Thanos to try to re-educate him so he doesn't try to destroy the universe. Yes, you heard me, that's the plot, and it gets crazier as he also has to deal with Galactus and space sharks. Cates takes this premise and goes absolutely crazy with it. It's just a ball from beginning to end. It surprises with every panel. And Burnett's cartoony art is just complete fun and perfect for the subject matter. On paper, this shouldn't work, but when you read it, it's just a fun blast. Seriously, Cosmic Ghost Rider, I don't know who came up with this idea, but it's just fun. Definitely worth checking out. Also, I'd like to thank my friends Chris and Tina Jones, and also Dan Klink over at the Nerd Bliss podcast, for having me over again for the latest episode in which we talked about my podcast. And also, we all went together to see the re-release of Transformers the movie, the original and the only, to my matter, good Transformer movies ever made. Great episode, and if you're listening to Nerd Bliss, please check them out. As I point out in the podcast, they're the guys who finally gave me my little kick to finally go out and make my own podcast myself. And with that, we have concluded our two-part history of EC Comics. Perfectly October month. Next week, we're going to try to continue the theme with the strange life of the late, great Steve Ditko, arguably the second greatest comic book artist after Jack Kirby for Marvel during the great Marvel revival of the 1960s. With that, please join me again next week, and in the meantime, go out and enjoy yourself a good comic book.